Imagine this. It's Christmas Eve, 1945. A fire rips through a family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, and in its wake, it sparks one of America's most haunting and, honestly, baffling unsolved mysteries. When all the smoke cleared, 5 children were just gone. And I don't mean they were presumed dead in the fire. I mean, they vanished. Their bodies were never, ever found.
And these are the children who disappeared that night. We've got 14-year-old Maurice, Martha, who was 12, Louis, just 9 years old, Jenny, who was 8, and little Betty, only 5. Just 5 siblings, so excited for Christmas morning, who in the course of a single night would seem to vanish right off the face of the earth.
And that right there, that's the absolute chilling core of this entire case. In the middle of all the chaos of a house fire on Christmas, 5 kids just disappeared. Not just presumed dead, they were gone. And they left behind this huge void of questions that, honestly, still echo today. So to really get what happened here, we've got to go back to that night. The Sodders, George and Jenny, they were a well-respected Italian-American family. They had a successful trucking business and a big, bustling home with 9 kids. It really should have been just a totally normal, happy Christmas Eve. But it really wouldn't be.
You see, there was this kind of tension running just beneath the surface. George Sodder was a pretty vocal critic of Mussolini, and that stance, well, it created some serious friction within the local Italian community. And this political disagreement, as we're about to find out, may have had some absolutely deadly consequences.
So let's go back to the night of the fire. The older kids had already opened a few presents, and the 5 youngest, that's Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, they asked if they could stay up just a little bit later to play. Their mom, Jenny, she said yes. I mean, it's such a simple decision, right? And it would be the last time she ever saw them. And what happened next was just bizarre. At 12:30 in the morning, a weird phone call wakes Jenny up. Then at 1 a.m., a loud bang on the roof. An hour after that, the house is filling with smoke. And get this, the most shocking part, the fire department, which was only about 2 miles away, didn't show up until 8 in the morning, a full 7 hours later. George, Jenny, and 4 of their other kids managed to escape, but the 5 youngest were trapped up in the attic, and the staircase had become a solid wall of fire. What came next was just this series of inexplicable failures, as every single attempt George made to rescue his children was blocked in a way that just feels, well, it feels almost deliberate. By Christmas morning, the Sodder home was nothing but a smoldering ruin. Officially, the story was that the children had died in the fire. But for George and Jenny, that explanation started to fall apart almost immediately. It just completely contradicted everything they knew to be true. So the official cause of the fire was ruled faulty wiring, but the Sodders knew that was wrong. Their Christmas lights were still on as the fire started. And then came the biggest, most crucial point of all. Officials claimed the kids burned up in the blaze, but a search of the ashes turned up nothing. No bones, no teeth, not a single trace of 5 bodies. Jenny, looking for answers, actually started conducting her own experiments, burning animal bones. They never completely vanished. And a crematorium expert confirmed her worst fears. The house fire, which lasted less than an hour, just wasn't hot enough or long enough to have completely obliterated 5 human skeletons. And this is where the story really pivots from a tragic accident to a potential crime. The Sodders started piecing together this whole series of anomalies and threats that didn't point to faulty wiring at all, but to a deliberate act of arson designed to cover up a kidnapping. The evidence was just piling up. George's ladder, which was always in its spot, had vanished. His work trucks, which were working perfectly the day before, suddenly wouldn't start. A repairman later confirmed their phone line had been cut, not burned. A witness even saw someone removing engine equipment during the fire, and an object that looked a lot like an incendiary bomb was found in the yard. This wasn't just bad luck. It feels like systematic sabotage. And then you get the most direct clue of all. Just a few weeks before Christmas, an insurance salesman, who was angry that George wouldn't buy a policy, made this terrifyingly specific threat. He directly linked the destruction of his house and his children to George's public criticism of Mussolini. So, completely convinced their children were still alive, George and Jenny Sodder dedicated the rest of their lives to finding them. They absolutely refused to accept the official story and began this heartbreaking, decades-long quest that was fueled by these tantalizing leads and reported sightings. pretty credible witnesses started coming forward. A woman who ran a tourist stop about 50 miles away claimed she served the kids breakfast on Christmas morning. She said they were in a car with Florida plates, with some Italian-speaking adults. Then another woman at a hotel in Charleston reported seeing 4 of the 5 kids about a week later, with a group that seemed really hostile and secretive. And yet, the official investigation was just riddled with problems. Local police and fire departments actually turned down an offer of help from the FBI, and even more disturbing, a private investigator the family hired found out that the very same insurance salesman who threatened George was serving on the coroner's jury that ruled the fire an accident. I mean, that's a massive conflict of interest. So, taking matters into their own hands, the family put up this billboard along Route 16. For decades, it just stood there as this public plea and an iconic symbol of their absolute refusal to give up hope, offering a pretty substantial reward for any information about their kids. So in 1949, the Sodders sponsored their own excavation of the fire site, and they found a few bone fragments, 4 vertebrae. But when they sent them to the Smithsonian for analysis, the mystery just got deeper. The bones belonged to someone between 16 and 22 years old, older than Maurice, the eldest missing child, and crucially, they showed no signs of ever having been in a fire. Okay, now fast forward to 1968. That's more than 20 years after the fire. Jen Sodder gets an envelope in the mail. Inside is this photograph of a young man, and the family was just stunned by how much he looked like their son Louis. And on the back was this cryptic, handwritten message. "I love Brother Frankie," obviously refers to one of their older sons. The rest of that code was never cracked. The family hired another private investigator to try and track down who sent it, but the PI just vanished, and they never heard from him again. The photo gave them this incredible surge of hope, but in the end, it was just another dead end. So in the end, despite a lifetime of searching, the clues, the sightings, that strange photograph, none of it ever led to a real breakthrough. The case of the Sodder children just remains a profound and profoundly sad American mystery. And the toll this took on the parents was just immense. George died in 1969, only a year after they got that photo of the man who looked like Louis. Jenny lived for another 2 decades. She surrounded her home with a fence and wore black every single day in mourning for her lost children. They both went to their graves without ever knowing what happened. So in the end, we're really left right where the Sodders were. Was this just a tragic accident that was made worse by a totally inept investigation? Or was it a meticulously planned kidnapping, covered up by arson and protected by a conspiracy of silence? After all these years, what truly happened to the 5 Sodder children remains a completely unanswered and deeply, deeply haunting question.